Okay, so you want to own a convenience store, and you'd assume the things you sell the most of are the things making you the most money. Here is the inversion that runs this entire business. The two biggest sellers in a great many shops, cigarettes and lottery tickets, are almost worthless to you. The margin on them can be a few percent, sometimes less. You are handing over a large amount of value and keeping almost nothing. So why on earth would you stock them? Because they are not products. They are appointments. The smoker comes in every single day. The lottery player comes in twice a week. You are not selling them anything. You are buying their footfall, and you are paying for it with your margin. So let's take this shop apart, shelf by shelf, because once you understand what each thing is actually for, you will never walk into one of these the same way again. But first, the price of admission, because it is not the money, it is the hours. A convenience store is defined by being open when other things are not. That is the product. Early, late, weekends, holidays, the evening, when everybody else has shut, and somebody has to be standing behind that counter for every single one of those hours, which means you are not buying a business. You are buying a rota that must be filled 7 days a week for as long as you own it. And in a great many of these shops, the person filling most of that rota is the owner and their children on Saturdays, because staff cost money, and the margins we are about to look at do not leave much room for a full complement of paid hours across a 100-hour week. That is not a footnote. It is the central fact of a great many people's lives in this trade. And any honest look at the economics has to include the fact that a large part of what makes the numbers work is unpaid family labor and an owner who does not go home. Because a convenience store is physically a large amount of your money sitting on shelves, thousands of individual lines, every one of them bought and paid for before a customer ever walks in. That is working capital, tied up permanently, and it is the reason a shop that looks busy can still be short of cash. All right. Now, the arithmetic that shocks people, which is the gap between revenue and profit. Look at a typical shop's sales figures and cigarettes will be enormous. A huge share of everything that goes through that till. On paper, it looks like the core of the business, the thing the whole shop is built around. Now look at the profit those cigarettes generate. It is tiny. The margin on tobacco is famously thin because the price is heavily taxed and the wholesale cost is high, and the retailer sits at the end of that chain taking a very small slice of a very large number. The same is broadly true of the lottery. You sell the ticket and you receive a small commission on it, and that is all. The money flows through you and out the other side, and you keep a sliver. So you have two products that dominate your revenue and contribute almost nothing to your profit. Any sensible business analyst, looking at that in isolation, will tell you to stop selling them. They occupy space. They require security. They tie up cash in stock, and they earn you almost nothing. And that analyst would be catastrophically wrong. And here is why: because those two products have a property that almost nothing else in the shop has. They come with a schedule. Think about what a smoker actually is, from a shopkeeper's point of view, not a person buying a product. A person who will walk into a shop every single day for years at roughly the same time, whether or not they need anything else. And a lottery player is a person who will walk in twice a week, forever, drawn by a draw that happens on a fixed evening with the same ritual, at the same counter. You cannot buy that kind of frequency. You cannot advertise your way to it. A person does not come into a shop every day for crisps, but they will come in every day for cigarettes because the habit is doing the work, not you. So the honest way to describe those two products is not as products at all. They are appointments, scheduled, recurring, self-enforcing appointments made by the customer with themselves and honored at your door, and you are paying for them. That thin margin, the few percent you keep on a packet of cigarettes, is not really your profit on that sale. It is the price you are paying for a guaranteed visit. And now, having established that, I want to say the honest thing, say plainly, and then move on. The two products doing that work are not neutral. Tobacco kills people, and the lottery, for a certain kind of customer, is not a bit of fun, and a business model that depends structurally on the daily attendance of the addicted and the hopeful is not a morally weightless business model. Whatever else it is, I am not going to lecture you about it, because that is not what this is, but I am not going to pretend it isn't sitting there either, because it is, and it is load-bearing, and any explanation of this shop that doesn't mention it is a dishonest one. All right. So the visit has been purchased. Now, let's talk about what happens once they are inside, because this is where the business actually is. Watch a customer. 90 seconds. That is all it takes. He comes in for one thing. He knows exactly what it is. He knows exactly where it is. He could walk the route with his eyes shut. And now look at what happens on that route, because every centimeter of it has been designed. The thing he wants is at the very back, behind the counter, as far from the door as it is physically possible to put it. And people assume that is regulation, and partly it is, because tobacco display rules in a lot of countries require it to be out of sight. But that is not the whole answer, and the shopkeeper knew this long before the regulation existed. Because here is the crucial fact: he is coming in for it anyway. Nothing will stop him. He does not need to be tempted, or reminded, or advertised to. That purchase is going to happen no matter where in the building you put it. Which means the position of that product is not about selling it, it is about the walk. So you put it at the back, and you make him travel. And on the way, he passes the fridge. And on the way back, he passes the chocolate. And at the counter, while the transaction happens, there is a rack of things at eye level and at hand level, and he has 30 idle seconds to look at them. The shop is not a room with products in it. The shop is a route, and the route has been engineered, and the guaranteed purchase is the bait that pulls him along it. And now, at last, we get to where the money is. Because the second thing he buys, the one he did not come in for, is the entire business. He came in for cigarettes, which earn you almost nothing. He leaves with cigarettes and a bottle of cold drink, and that drink has a margin that would make a supermarket weep. Or he came in for a lottery ticket, and he leaves with a lottery ticket and a chocolate bar. And the chocolate bar is where you actually made your day. So the honest structure of this business is that the low-margin habit purchase funds the visit, and the high-margin impulse purchase funds the shop. One buys the footfall, the other converts it. And every single decision in that room is downstream of that fact: the layout. The temperature of the fridge, which is set colder than it needs to be, because a very cold drink on a warm day is a purchase that makes itself. The queue, which is not a queue at all but a corridor lined with small, cheap, tempting things. And there is one more thing working in your favor on that second purchase, and it is worth understanding because it is the only pricing power you have in the entire building. Nobody is comparing prices on an impulse buy. Think about how a person actually behaves. They will absolutely notice if your tin of beans is more expensive than the supermarket's. Because a tin of beans is a planned purchase, and they know what it should cost, and they have a reference price in their head. But the chocolate bar they did not intend to buy, they have no reference price for that. Because they were not shopping for it. They did not compare. They wanted it. It was there. It was a small amount of money, and the entire decision took under 2 seconds. So the impulse purchase is not merely higher margin because you charge more. It is higher margin because it is the one category where the customer has stopped price checking you. Which is why the planned purchases and the impulse purchases have to sit in completely different parts of your head as an owner. On the planned items, you are a price taker, and you will lose. On the impulse items, you have genuine room, and that room is your entire profit. All right, let's stack the margin ladder properly, because there is a hierarchy here, and it goes somewhere surprising. At the bottom, the habit anchors, tobacco, lottery, enormous revenue, negligible margin, their job is attendance. Above that, the basics. The tin of beans, the loaf of bread, the pint of milk. And here you have a problem, and we'll come back to it, because you cannot win on these. The supermarket can sell that tin below what you paid for it. What these do is complete the shop, so that a person can actually get what they need without going elsewhere. And that completeness is itself a service. Above that, the impulse layer. Chilled drinks, confectionery, crisps, snacks. This is where the margins get genuinely healthy, and it is why every one of those items is positioned in the places you cannot avoid looking at. And then at the very top, at the summit of the whole ladder, is the thing that a great many convenience store owners have realized is the actual future of this business: food. And above all, coffee. Look at a cup of coffee in cost terms. The beans, a splash of milk, hot water, a per cup, and a plastic lid. Add all of that up and it costs you a small handful of pennies, and it sells for a couple of pounds. That is a margin that nothing else in the shop can touch. Not the crisps, not the drinks, not anything. And a hot food counter, sausage rolls, pastries, a simple sandwich, behaves the same way. High margin, made fresh, sold hot, and it turns a shop into somewhere with a reason to exist beyond the tin of beans. Which is why so many of these shops are quietly becoming food businesses with a shop attached. The coffee machine humming away in the corner may genuinely be making more money than the entire wall of your best-selling product. And there is a fourth category, which is not really products at all, and which is one of the smartest things happening in this sector. Services, an ATM, which earns a fee on every withdrawal and which also puts cash in a person's hand 3 meters from your confectionery. Parcel collection and returns, where the delivery companies pay you a small amount per Pascal Arcel to be their pickup point. Bill payments, mobile top-ups, and all the small transactional services that people still need somewhere physical to do. And every one of those earns a modest fee. But that is not the point of them. The point is that every single one manufactures a reason to walk through your door. A parcel pickup is not a service. It is a footfall product wearing a service costume. That person did not want to visit your shop. They wanted their parcel. And now they are standing inside your shop at your counter, next to your chocolate, with 30 seconds to spare. Which is exactly the same trick as the cigarettes, performed with a completely different product. All right. Now the costs, and one of them is not really a cost at all. It is a structural condition, shrinkage. Some of your stock is going to disappear or become worthless, and this is not an accident or a crime wave. There is theft, from customers and occasionally from staff. There is spoilage, because you sell fresh milk and sandwiches and fruit, and every day some of it goes out of date and gets thrown away, and you paid for all of it. There is damage, there is error at the till. And on a business running a thin net margin, this is not an irritation. It is a line item, and it is one of the main reasons two shops with identical sales can have completely different profits. The one that manages its stock, its dates, its ordering, and its losses makes money. The one that doesn't. And the discipline that separates them is genuinely unglamorous, which is why so many people fail at it. It is ordering. Specifically, it is ordering the right amount of the perishable things. Order too little fresh food and you sell out by 6 in the evening. And every person who comes in after that and finds an empty shelf is a person who learns, slowly, that your shop cannot be relied upon for the thing they wanted. And a convenience store that cannot be relied upon has lost the only thing it was selling. Order too much, and you are throwing money in a bin at the end of the night. Not metaphorically. Sandwiches, milk, fruit, bread, all of it bought with your cash and binned because nobody came. So every single day, on every single perishable line, somebody has to make a judgment about how many people are going to walk through that door and what they are going to want. And they have to be right, repeatedly, for years. In a business where being wrong in either direction costs you, that is the actual daily job. Not the till, the ordering. So now, let's look at the trapdoor. And this business is being squeezed from both directions at once. And both of them are getting worse. From below comes scale. The supermarket buys in quantities you cannot conceive of, at prices you will never see. They can sell a product at a price beneath what your wholesaler charges you. That is not clever pricing on their part. It is simply arithmetic, and it is arithmetic you cannot argue with, which means there is an entire category of goods on which you are permanently structurally uncompetitive. And everybody knows it, including your customers. They know the tin of beans is more expensive in your shop. They buy it anyway, occasionally, because they need it now, and the supermarket is a bus ride away. And this is where a great many independent shops make a decision that outsiders never notice. Because if the supermarket's advantage is buying power, then the obvious answer is to get some. So independent stores band together, under a shared name, buying through a common wholesaler. You have seen these fascias on high streets everywhere, without ever thinking about what they are. The shop is still owned by the person behind the counter. It is not a franchise in the full sense, and they have not sold their business to anybody. But they have bought into a buying group, and in exchange they get better wholesale prices, a recognizable shop front, promotional deals, and access to own brand ranges they could never have developed alone. It is a genuinely clever piece of structure, and it is why an independent shop can carry a national-looking brand above the door while remaining a family business inside. But notice what it costs. You participate in their promotions. Your shopfront looks like everybody else's shopfront. You have traded a slice of your independence for a slice of their scale. And for most shops, that is a trade worth making, because the alternative is buying at prices that make you uncompetitive on everything. And that word, now, is doing all of the work. It is the entire foundation of this business. Which brings us to the second squeeze, and this one is genuinely new, and it is aimed precisely at that foundation. The phone, your moat, your only moat, was proximity. You were close. You were open. When somebody needed something at 11 at night, you were the answer, because nothing else was. Now, there is a delivery app. And that app is closer than you are, because it is in their hand, on the sofa, and it will bring the thing to the door without them putting shoes on. The convenience in convenience store was never about the shop, it was about the distance. and an app has just made the distance zero. Now, of course, you can list your own shop on that app, many do, and it can genuinely work, and it opens up a delivery trade you never had. But look carefully at what happens when you do. The app takes a commission, and that commission comes out of the margin on the impulse purchases, which was the only real margin you had. So you have converted a high margin walk-in into a lower margin delivery, and you have handed a slice of it to a platform, and you have lost the 90-second walk past the chocolate entirely. So the delivery app is not simply a new channel, it is a channel that removes the exact mechanism your shop was built around. So what actually works? Because good convenience stores are genuinely good businesses, and plenty of them thrive, and the answer is to be the thing an app cannot be. An app cannot make you a coffee that is hot right now. It cannot hand you a sausage roll straight from the oven. So the food and drink offer, the thing at the top of the margin ladder, is also the thing that is hardest to disintermediate. And that is not a coincidence. It is the whole strategy. An app cannot be a parcel point. It cannot cash your check or pay your bill or be the place where the person behind the counter knows your name and asks about your mother. And an app, crucially, cannot be open when you need it in a way that feels like part of the street. A good convenience store is an institution. People are loyal to it in a way they are absolutely not loyal to a delivery platform. And that loyalty is the one thing on the balance sheet that a competitor cannot buy. And that institutional quality is not sentimental. It is commercial, and it shows up in the numbers. Because the person who thinks of your shop as their shop does not price check you. They do not open an app to see whether the same drink is 40 pence cheaper somewhere else. They walk in, because that is what they do, and they buy the thing they came for and the thing they didn't. And they have been doing it for 11 years. That is a customer no algorithm can dislodge. And you did not acquire them with a promotion. You acquired them by being there, reliably, at the end of their street for a very long time. So let's answer the question we started with. What do you actually own when you own a convenience store? You do not own a shop, really. You own a footfall business. Every single item in that building is doing one of two jobs. It is either buying you a visit or it is monetizing one. The tobacco and the lottery and the parcels and the ATM are buying the visits. The drinks and the chocolate and the coffee are converting them. And that conversion is where every penny you will ever make actually comes from. And the entire art of this business is arranging those two categories in physical space so that the second one is unavoidable on the way to the first. So, should you buy one? Here's the honest split. The optimistic version goes like this. You understand exactly what your low margin lines are for, and you never resent them because they are buying you the only thing that matters, which is people through the door. You build a serious food and coffee offer because that is where the margin actually lives, and it is the one thing the phone cannot take from you. You take every service you can get, parcels, payments, cash, because each one is another manufactured reason to visit. You control your shrinkage like it is a religion, and you become over years an institution on your street, which is a genuinely durable thing to be. The harder version looks like this. You tried to compete with the supermarket on price, which was never a fight you could win, and you lost money on every tin you sold trying. Your fresh stock kept going out of date, quietly, week after week. Your coffee machine broke, and you did not replace it because it seemed like a side issue. And then the delivery apps arrived, and the 11 o'clock customer, who was the entire reason you were open at 11 o'clock, stopped putting his shoes on. And notice what decides between those two futures. It is almost never the products. Everybody has the same products. It is the arrangement of them and the reasons you have given people to walk in. Because in the end, a convenience store does not sell what it sells the most of. It gives that away almost deliberately. What it actually sells is the second thing you picked up on the way to the counter. And it has spent every centimeter of that building making sure that you did.